ये मेरे 32 डेज़ का इंग्लिश स्पीकिंग प्रैक्टिस है और इसमें आप बहुत ही स्पष्ट रूप से देख पाओगे कि कैसे मैं डे 1 पे बहुत ही स्ट्रगल कर रहा हूँ। बहुत फियर है, कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल बहुत ही लो है, दिमाग में शब्द होते हुए भी मैं बार बार स्पीचलेस हो जा रहा था। और डे 32 पे आप एक डिफरेंस देखोगे मेरे कॉन्फिडेंस में, मेरे इंग्लिश स्ट्रक्चरिंग में, इवन वोकेबलरी में भी। और फियर फियर ख़त्म हो चुका है। इंग्लिश स्पीकिंग या फिर कम्युनिकेशन स्किल का इससे बेहतरीन तरीका और सस्ता तरीका कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता है। इसमें सिंपली आपको ये करना है कि अगर लैपटॉप है तो आप वेब कैमरा खोल के हर रोज़ 5-10 मिनट रिकॉर्ड कर सकते हो। नहीं तो मोबाइल फ़ोन तो होंगे ही, तभी तो आप ये देख रहे हो। तो आपको क्या करना है कि हर रोज़ कोशिश करनी है, हर रोज़ ये 10 मिनट अंग्रेज़ी बोलने की प्रैक्टिस करनी है। इसमें इस बात का बिल्कुल ध्यान नहीं रखना है कि अंग्रेज़ी सही बोल रहा हूँ या फिर गलत बोल रहा हूँ। इसे भी बस आपको बस शुरू कर देना है और फिर आप बिल्कुल जैसे यहाँ पे मेरे में इम्प्रूवमेंट देख रहे हो, डे 1, डे 2, डे 15, आप डे बाय डे इम्प्रूवमेंट देख रहे हो मुझ में। तो ऐसे ही बिल्कुल आपको भी खुद में इम्प्रूवमेंट, इंग्लिश स्पीकिंग में इम्प्रूवमेंट नज़र आनी शुरू हो जाएगी। That's it. I have seen the lows, ups and lows of the life, and sometimes the in the history of football have has never seen such a talented and God-gifted football players ever. If you, in the history of football, the history of if the history of football have given any legendary, then we can't ignore this Irish footballer who is George Best. George Best was one of the finest players the history of football has ever seen. He was such a talented and God-gifted players. Whoever are the films made just for the profit or for the well-being of society? Well, in my view, today I'm going to tell you a beautiful story. After knowing the stories of P. Rajagopalan, after knowing the story of P. Rajagopalan from Tamil Nadu, uh, you will understand that how today I am going to tell you a beautiful story of a person who went on cleaning utensils too. become the dosa king of India. You would have heard several stories of hardship and struggles, but mm, this is a very special story about how a 17-year-old boy recently three major earthquakes hit Turkey and Syria. The first one was of magnitude of 7.8. That was a massive magnitude because if you in this video I would talk about the Nishkam Kar that we call in Bhagavad Gita. Um, Here I would talk about why with passage of time, mm, the world order is getting disturbed day by day. Back in 17th century, and there was a race of making the world's first aeroplane. Right, brothers? Back in 17th century, when the aeroplane making was aeroplane was taking shape, aeroplane making was taking shape, the person whom 1990s was not an easy decade for India, as you have heard that there was terrorist attack in 1991 and India was on the brink of economic collapse, as we have 6 to 7 days of foreign reserve left. What is meditation and how do you perform it? Um, the first instance, uh, I got acquaintance. My first my first acquaintance, acquaint, my first acquaintance, my first acquaintance, acquaintance, my first acquaintance with meditation uh, was when I would be 9 to 10 years old. There is a massive humiliation of China in few recent weeks. The story starts with on January 27th, the USA claims the USA citizens are began to see a large balloons flying over or their land, and when investigated it came to know, it found out that it is China spy balloon. When asked to China officials. They claims, yeah, this is China weather forecasting balloon, and nothing to worry about it. But the Americans see is at invasion to their uh, sovereignty, and finally, when the balloon was about to leave the USA land, they shot it using F-22 Raptor, and from there, within 1 week in the world. And that means he is saying that he has two sides, a, a moral George Soros and moral George Soros. When he is when he is on path of making money, he is in immoral George Soros, and he does not take in account of anything, whatever comes in his path. And the other time, after his when his money making session ends, um, he become immoral George Soros. And if we look at this, uh, let's talk about Chat GPT. First of all, try to understand. We'll try to understand what does this GPT mean. GPT is generative pre-trained transformer, and chat symbolize that you can only chat with bot. I would only talk about George Soros. George Soros is basically a short seller, and currently he is one of the richest hedge fund manager. Although he is rich, that is 92-year-old, but he still have he still have in political clout and influences all over the world. Recently, I got question like uh, life is short, and since we know that nothing remains after the death of a person, then why we should not enjoy life at the fullest, or why we should not indulge in all type of pleasures, luxuries. Let's talk about Adani Empire. Adani is in news, and that's the case. We see that Adani in few years have achieved such a massive success, but that's not the case. Actually, Adani was comes from really humble background. He was not that rich. Neither he was not born in a rich family like the Adani were able to sustain. These days, we are seeing that everyone is calling that government is selling airport, seaport, and everything on the hand of Adani. But if we look at the history, there is in 98, Adani was given a minor seaport, um, and that was very underdeveloped seaport in the Kutch desert of Kutch in Gujarat. It was so underdeveloped that even a railway line was not connected to that port. But today, but Adani really put their efforts, and today, along with the port of Kutch, the Mudra seaport is highly automated and modernized, and that was not the case even 10 to 15 years ago. And uh, the fact that firstly they were given minor ports, and then when the government see that they are really putting efforts into it, then they were given uh, bigger ports and other private responsibility to an empire, and and in that thing there is nothing wrong with it. I was astonishingly surprised when I came to know that even Pakistan has a Nobel winner physicist. Yeah, it's true that back in 1960 to 1970, this is a iconic picture of Joe Biden with his aviator visiting Kiev at the time of war, blaring sirens in the background and sending a message to Russia that they are still with Ukraine. But but the thing is, there is no such physical existence of God that He will hear your prayer or even your abuse. We keep complaining about the creator of this nature that why I'm so weak, why my head is not that tall, and a lot of things which the man which a normal person even can't think of. He complain about anything, whatever happens in his life to God that this is happening because of you. Look, see that I would talk about the incident that has recently happened in South Asia, especially in country, um, especially the country Sri Lanka. We always have heard that India is trying to follow the step of China, or is trying to bridge the gap between bridge the gap that is built between India and China in terms of economic might or military power. I will talk about how to be an effective communicator. To be an effective communicator, you have to keep these 5 points in mind, and after when you practice with these 5 points, keeping in month keeping in mind several times, when we practice with when we practice several times, with these 5 points, uh, soon you will master the art of public speaking. And so, what are those 5 points which you must keep in mind while speaking? The first is India has a trade deficit with China. Not only trade deficit but massive trade deficit with China. Trade deficit simply means that we tends to import more and we have less import export to that country. And trade in trade deficit our rupee devalues because we have to buy more dollar using our rupee. The Russia this time would be the most hated country for the Ukrainian people, and I was thinking that America would be the most loved country for Ukraine because they have literally given billions of dollars. It's not just 1 2 billion. They have given more than 20 billion of dollar to Ukraine in just cash and the weapons arsenal they have given. In spite of giving all those big dollars to Ukraine, somewhere Ukrainian people are looking USA at a very decisive eye or a confused eye that whether America is trying to gain something because they have the reputation of not giving anything in free. They have their own interest, and the Ukrainian people are to understanding this fact. The Western countries are planning to put Russia into blacklist, and this will be a major blow to the Russian economy because after this sanction, no any country or institutions, financial institutions like the World Bank, IMF, or even the Asian Development Bank would give even a single penny to the Russia in form of loan or even for the infrastructure projects. And any company of in the world would think 100 times before investing in Russian economy or making any type of deal with Russian company or its government. Uh, and what are the im- consequences of our problems? The impacts are really very high, but we need to think. But the main thing is how to tackle from your problem, how to solve your problems, and the answer is simple yet tricky or difficult for lots of person because the simple answer is meditation and meditation, but it's more easier than to done for most of the people. I'm not giving you a reference about the whole population. The whole population is not like that. uh, I have seen lots of people who love meditating, and somehow they are built or they have different nature, and they are a kind of a spiritual being from birth. And although I am not that perfectly fitted into that definition of a spiritual being, but I was really different from other population. Yeah. Mm, from my childhood, I had have a spiritual bent. How all this recession and global economic downturn happened.
The answer is very simple. The Europe has been had been very dependent on Russia for its energy requirement, and once the Ukraine war started, these European country start shifting in from the Russia for their energy requirement. And you would have heard that European country have destroyed Nord Stream, that was the pipeline coming from Russia to the Europe, specifically Germany, and they have blasted, and now they are buying well at a higher rate from the international market. And all these huge energy demand of the Europe is pushing European country into recession.